Hey, good people. Grits or cream of wheat? Who the hell is racist? Does anyone ever ask if they touch your hair?
Black Like Me.
You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee, a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. Gee.
Black Like Me.
Hey, good people. Welcome back to another great and exciting episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee. Hey, today's episode is going to be informative. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be fun. My very, very special guest is none other than my sister, Lilada Gee, and we are talking about her new podcast. Oh, hell yeah, it runs in the family. We're talking about our new podcast. Lilada Gee hails from Madison, Wisconsin, born in Chicago, Illinois. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where she is not just one, two, but three triple, that's redundant, a triple major in psychology, African-American studies, and education. Listen, we didn't even know old girl could read, and she busted out of the University of Wisconsin with three majors. Her diploma says that. That's not just something she said at dinner parties. She served as a Dane County social worker for many decades. Probably at the height of her career was one of three Black social workers who served all of Dane County Human Services, and she was in a cultural specific program. She wrote a book a number of years ago called I Can't Live Like This Anymore. I'll put the link of it inside this podcast, where she divulged the gruesome details of her history of incest and sexual abuse. And it just sent shockwaves throughout our church, community, family. But it also opened doors. I remember noticing that she created space to make it safe for women, particularly Black women, to talk about the scars and the wounds, not just from the abuse, but the secrecy of the abuse. In the last few years, the lady has decided to focus her work on defending Black girls and defending Black girlhood, because she's the mother of a son and a daughter, and she knows that there are a plethora of resources for her son if he needed support or encouragement. Not so much when it comes to her daughter, who's helping Black women, who's talking about Black girls. She has made this a very profoundly bold statement that when we really are talking about the Black family, we're talking about single mothers. Because if 70% of the Black households are led by Black women, why aren't we talking to Black women, about Black girls who are going to become Black women? And why aren't we working and healing them so that if they are carrying our communities on their backs, our churches on their backs, our NBA stars, pastors, et cetera, on their backs, in their hearts, why aren't we investing in young Black girls so as to create a stronger community because of these young folks? And so we're going to talk about a number of things, but really focusing on her podcast, because I think you all, one, we're going to, but two, I think this is another resource, Black Like Me family. Yes, you don't have to be in a quota. You can listen to more than one Black podcast. It's okay. It's not cheating. It's all right. You don't have to think, oh my gosh, you can listen to both of them. You got time. Listen, you're white. You got options. You're Black. You got options. You're Latino, you got options. And so with all that big build up, Lilada, little sis, welcome to Black Like Me podcast again.
Thank you. So glad to be here as always.
Hey, so listen, we got a number of things to talk about, but I gotta ask you a couple of Black icebergs. You don't get to skip that just because you're my sister.
Okay.
Does that seem fair?
Fair enough.
Can you name 5 uses of Vaseline? And this is
crusty elbows, crusty knees, crusty hands, crusty legs, and crusty arms, and crusty lips. Does that count?
Yeah, you can. Because listen, I don't know if Vaseline was created, petroleum jelly created for Black folks, but listen, let me tell you something. Because I cannot get to my barber, I need a line and I cut my hair anyway. But I forgot how good it feels to just put Vaseline in your hair and just work it out, because it'll make that comb.
Add a little water.
add a little water, make that Conair comb go right through your little mini fro.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right, Lilada, sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds?
Oh my God, sunflower seeds for sure.
Can you name a brand of sunflower seeds?
David and Sons. Is there any other?
Come on, is there any other? You know, when I go to the store and I see other
I could say some other ones, but
that's like I know I think Fisher makes them and other people, but I think
Fisher's can be good.
Like, is this right? Like, should there be other kinds? Like, is this piece, is that really fair?
It's not right.
It's really
like Planters is good too, but it's nothing like David and Son.
Got you. Now, were you ever spanked when you were a child?
Beat.
Okay. Did you get syllable beating?
Oh yes. Yes. And I say that really tongue in cheek. We got spanked because I don't feel like I really got beaten. But I definitely got the syllable spanking.
You really did.
And then when she didn't have it long enough of an issue, she just repeat herself. And you know what she would repeat. There was one line she would repeat no matter what it was you did.
That? Didn't I tell you?
Didn't I? Yes. You did.
And then wait,
now can you stop?
Then watch. No, let's tell you the line. Let me tell you the line I love. Let me give you something to cry about. let me give you. And I think, my eyeball is rolling around in the shag carpet right now. I think you might have given me enough to cry. I can't see straight. Don't you think? You've given me enough to no, I didn't get beat like that my eyes rolling around. But it's just those lines.
But she did give me something to cry about, though. She did. Thank you, Mom.
Oh my gosh. That's right. She did. Do you know what a school story is?
Yeah. So what I'm thinking of is a store that was in somebody's house that you would get candy from either before or after school.
Yeah.
Is what comes to mind.
Yes.
And
you don't see that anymore. Like,
is that what you mean?
Yeah, like our kids growing up didn't say, "Oh, let's go down to, Sandra's house and go buy some candy." Like, people had stores in their homes.
Oh yeah, and it was set up too.
Right. It had nice display.
It was set up. Yeah. I remember the one when we lived on Hamlin. I believe it was.
Yeah.
Snow cones and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Does Mattel make an African American Barbie doll?
Yes, it does.
What was her name?
Oh, I'm just about to betray Black people. Oh my God. It's on the tip of my tongue.
But think about it.
It wasn't LaQuisha.
It wasn't LaQuisha. No, there was no apostrophes or dashes in her name. Mattel don't do apostrophes or dashes.
Dang it.
Was it, you want me to help you?
Christy.
Okay, all right, that's what I was going to say. Now they had like an adult and a teen. Do you remember the teen's name? First, tell me about Christy, because you loved Barbie doll. What did you love about Christy?
I mean, it was the doll that looked like me.
And you knew that, because you had the white Barbie dolls. So I think it might have happened before Christy came out, but it looked like you. Wow, and then wasn't there a Kim?
You know what? I found an old Christy doll that I had from the 70s, 80s, and I accidentally donated it to Goodwill.
Oh no!
So sad. She had the afro and everything. So sad.
Do you remember one
time? So I'm about to see if I can go on eBay and find.
Yeah, and if you're listening to Black Like Me and you know how to find a Christy doll, if you have one, you would get big ups if you didn't hook Lilada up. Remember Lilada one time you had a cousin, you let her play with your little doll, Barbie or Christy, and she chewed up her foot.
Skipper. Yes.
Skipper.
Like,
Skipper.
Why?
Wait. That was a teenage doll, right? Well, that child was nervous. You knew why. She was chewing your doll so she wouldn't chew her lip.
Skipper was preteen. There was a teenager. Her name was like JP or something like that, and they stopped making her. Period.
Wow, but Skipper was a young white doll.
She was.
A preteen, Leslie. Okay. Anyway, all right. Those are my black icebreakers. It was good. I saved that Mattel one
Just for me.
just for you. You're just for you. Well, let you know your
Thank you.
accolades. I forgot to tell people that you're also a minister, that you've been involved in ministry for well over 30 years to children,
40.
teens, close to 40 years, children, teens. You and I were part of a group that came out of a good old-fashioned Church of God in Christ Pentecostal background where they believed that kids could have a calling, and we were identified as having that calling. And here it is 40 years later, literally 40 years later, we're still doing this kind of work. But you and I have done something that not many of our black clergy colleagues have been able to do. We've been able to stay very rooted in the pulpit, but we've also learned that the sharing of good news is not just quoting scripture, but it's living out scripture. It is contextualizing scripture in ways that talk about issues of race, mass incarceration, assault against women. And so I'm really proud. Not everyone thought that was a good idea. I think people question our salvation, if not our sanity, for doing it. But I just see this tremendous work that you've developed. We're going to get to your podcast in just a moment. But another unique thing that you do is you've fallen in love with the whole concept of Afro-Latino worldviews. And so when you said to me back that you're committed to the care and the healing of Afro-Latino women, I was thinking, what the heck is she talking about? And, we're all from the Afro-Am department of UW-Mass. So I had to think about it. More slaves went to Brazil and to South America than those that actually came to North America. And then also across the Caribbean. And so before we get into your podcast, are you at liberty just to talk about some of the places where your work has taken you to listen to the stories of Afro-Latino women? Can you just tell me, name, if you can remember them all, name some of the some of the countries and places you've gone to talk to women to hear their stories? Because this all informs what we're about to talk on your podcast.
Absolutely. I've actually gone to every country in Latin and Central America, except 3. And so some of the places that most stand out for me, of course, are Dominican Republic, Panama, Cuba. I've gone to Honduras, Belize. Colombia is sometimes considered Central America, sometimes, part of South America. So I've gone to quite a few and have been surprised by the almost purity of African culture that is in those places. Even though, I'm sorry?
It's been preserved?
It has been preserved in a way that's different than it has been in the U.S. And that was really solidified when I went to Ghana for the first time this past summer. And it felt 100% familiar to me. And I think part of that was just, on a DNA ancestral level. But the other part was it looked just like the DR. It looked just like
music
Panama.
Sounded similar. I remember you saying that when
the music was the same. The music, the pervasive carry of the drums. It just was so familiar, even down to how they sell live good on the side of the road and sell fruits and vegetables. It's cool to see that. Like, for instance, if you're in Haiti, if you are in Dominican Republic, particularly in parts where there are a lot of Haitians, you will see Black women still carrying food and item on their heads. Now, you may see people selling on the south side of Chicago in the middle of the road, but sister ain't carrying that on her head.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
No, she's not. No, she's not going to do it because she's not going to mess up her hair. And so, Lilada, you created this podcast. So this is your newest venture. All right, Lilada. So we know that you are a radio host for Wart FM for a number of years. I give them a shout out because they've allowed me to record my podcast there for the longest, and you as well. And so I just want to give a shout out to them. But I heard your voice, your programming, and I said, Lilada, you need some flexibility. There are things you need to say, you must say that they don't let you say here. You went, thought about it, processed it, researched it. You have now come up with this podcast called Defending Black Girlhood. How'd you come up with that name?
Yeah, years ago, I saw this photograph from like the 60s and 70s, and an older Black man was holding this. Yeah, I saw this image from like the civil rights holding a sign that said defend Black womanhood. And I thought, wow, it was true and powerful. And I thought, if that was true, how much more true is it that we need to defend Black girlhood?
Wow. So,
and I just think it puts us in a posture of knowing that it has to be proactive.
Definitely.
To do what we need to do for Black girls.
You know, I like your intro to this. I want to give people just a little taste of this. And listen, folks, I know, you know, we're going to tell you how to find it. But, hey, engineer, can you play just a clip of the latest intro?
You are about to listen to Defending Black Girlhood podcast, and I'm your host, Lilada Gee. I'm a Black mother. Look, I don't care what Mookie May and Lakeisha mama does.
For real?
I'm not Mookie May and Lakeisha's mama.
Tripping.
A preacher. Give me the kid D. And Mary had a little baby, and his name was Jesus. A life coach. Look, girl, if Chump don't want no help, Chump don't get no help. Oh, and a singer. And I. No, I ain't a singer. Most of all, I'm an advocate for Black girls everywhere they are. And I'm telling you right now, I am unapologetic as hell about my fierce advocacy for Black girls to be safe in their homes, schools, and communities. Join us for courageous conversations about topics that most impact our girls, and be inspired to do your part in defending Black girls in your part of the world.
Now, Lilada, I got to tell you, I got a slamming intro. I love mine, but that is hot. And
Thank you.
And I love the fact that you said you're unapologetic in supporting Black girls everywhere they are, but also encourage others to have the communication and those conversations as well. And so, man, that intro just jumps right into it. That is fire. That is fire.
Thank you.
I will say to our listeners, though, who will become listeners of Lilada's podcast, Defending Black Girlhood, we're going to give you the link later on. But our podcast is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I do know this: if you don't want to get on Lilada's bad side, do not ask her, well, what about, and then start naming other ethnic groups. I know that if you don't want to get cussed out, don't ask her about that, because your purpose of doing this is, why can't, we won't even get into the negative stuff. You want to speak up on behalf of young Black girls. And so I just want to tell you, if you just want to see like the centuries of wrath of the Black woman,
right?
Ask Lilada, well, what about Latino? What about Native American? What about Asian? What about, because this is her mission. Nobody asks McDonald's to sell hot dogs. Nobody asks McDonald's to sell pizza. Nobody gets mad when Pizza Hut doesn't sell hamburgers. And
right.
You do not like folks, particularly well-intentioned, not so well-intentioned white women who are in social service spaces, to try to tell you how to talk to and about Black women, right?
It won't fare well, and I have a clip to prove it.
Oh, and oh my gosh. So you're gonna be playing that on your podcast?
We're thinking about using it. My daughter Alexandra, she caught me at a conference after this white woman challenged me, and I all but called her the daughter of the Most High.
You almost called her everything but that?
Yeah.
Wow, did she end up coming to you afterwards and apologizing?
Of course.
Yeah, she stood up and challenged you.
I didn't intend to. I mean, she had her hands on her.
Yeah. Oh, she was gonna get you to.
Oh, she was gonna get me told.
And then she looked to her black co-conspirators and said, right, because she wanted to make sure.
She had them say, oh yeah, she did. Yeah, she didn't even know. When it came time for me to reply, I said, y'all, I don't even need the microphone.
Oh, you don't even need it.
I don't even need the microphone.
Oh my goodness. What are you most proud about with this podcast? What are you most proud of being able to do?
I'm most proud of being able to bring stories of Black girls and the Black girl inside of us as Black women to the airways in a very unapologetic, raw way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just what we don't have enough of. And there's so many stories that haven't been told. There's so many stories that have been swept under the rug, swept under the rug. And I am in that unapologetic phase of my life
Mm-hmm.
where I feel that what the Spirit gives me to say, I'ma say. And there's just not many fucks left in me about what people think. And so
I'm sorry. That just cleaned my sinuses. FCC. FCC. Oh my.
I've emptied my bucket. So I'm pretty much gonna say what I feel is right to say in the most, from the most loving place that I can, because our Black girls are dying left and right and disappearing left and right. And there's not enough conversation about that. There's not enough outrage about it.
You are qualified to talk about the issue of Black girlhood. Just run down your resume, not in any particular, just run down your resume of your work with Black girls.
Well, I've actually been working with Black girls since I was in college. So we're knocking on the door of 30-some years that I've worked with Black girls in the context of school, church, and just community organizations. And
wow. So like 30 plus years of experience.
30 plus years, yes.
Coaching,
absolutely.
social working, counseling, peer mentoring, not triaging, case managing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. And so, I mean, and tell me about the patterns you're seeing in Black girls over the years that makes you even more commit to telling their story. I love the way you said telling their stories, not just talking about them, but talking with them and telling their stories. What are some of the things you continue to see over 3.5 decades?
Well, I think one of the things that is clear to see is that the level of anger seems to be raising among Black girls. And so then there's a tendency to be focused on that anger. Why are Black girls angry? And not asking the question as to one really wants to know why Black girls are angry. It's pretty much, how can we stop Black girls from being angry because they're disruptive? And I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing the adultification of Black girls, particularly in the school system. And I think once we start digging at that anger, we can get at what the basic maladjustment is. And I can see the look on a girl's face once she works out of the general school into a group, a safe space that I've created. And when she walks back out, it's just a total difference.
It's in the eyes?
It's in the eyes, it's in the face, it's the heaviness, it's in the shoulders, it's in the body language, and even it's in their own language. When, I've had like 4th grade girls say, okay, now I'm about to go back. As soon as I walk through this door, I feel like I'm going to have to go walk back and try to act white like they want me to.
In 4th grade, she's articulating that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, because, and I'll make a blanket statement, I think Black people, as a people, one of our areas of giftedness is our intuition. We tend to be heavy on, having empathetic thought and movement in the world. And that works with our kids too. And so our kids often know when they're in a space that's not safe, that's not welcoming, and they'll say it. They'll say the teacher doesn't like it. They'll say it. They don't have, right, but they don't have the language to say, my teacher doesn't like me, my teacher is racist because she did da 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 da. Because it's not so much the overt behavior, but it's really what they are taking in, their impacts, they are feeling it, they're feeling it interacting with them versus the other one. And because they don't have good hard data like white people love to have, they're dismissed.
Wow.
Well, if she didn't do this and she didn't do that and she didn't do that, well, then she's not, then she's not a racist, then she's not treating you differently. Instead of really listening to the patterns of reports that these girls may make, like on the same teacher, different grade of girls, different class of girls, they're saying the same thing about the same teacher.
So Lilada, I know there's a
Yes.
young girl you worked
Okay.
with. I think she was in kindergarten. As early as kindergarten, she told you that a teacher didn't like her. Do you remember that story? I mean, you work with hundreds of girls, but this was probably one of the youngest incidents.
Yes.
She said something like the teacher didn't call on her, or the teacher punished her, and she didn't punish the other girl, who was white. Do you remember that story?
Right.
Do you remember that story?
I do. This young lady is very bright,
Mm-hmm.
very bright. And the teacher punished her because she was talking while she was doing her schoolwork. And I asked her more about it. She said, yeah, because I can talk and do my work. And it was true. Now, unfortunately, I went to go visit this young girl's, it was true. I went to go visit this young girl's classroom. She's in first grade now. And I went to go visit her classroom. And she and another was a boy. Both had desks that were separated from the classroom. And her desk was facing the wall under the guise of she gets so distracted. And so I stayed in the classroom and just kind of watched, and I was working, was doing her homework, and she didn't seem to be paying attention at all. She got every single answer correct. Every single one. Yeah.
Wow.
And so she actually can talk and get her work done.
While looking at a wall.
Teacher, and I did talk with the parent as well, because the parent didn't know that her child had been separated from all the other students in the classroom and that she was sitting looking at a wall.
This is kindergarten. This is kindergarten for a child who probably is reading at a second grade level in kindergarten.
Right.
And we're trying to, and how many Black teachers are in that school?
0.
So you have this bright Black child, eyes are open, beautifully brown, sounding out words, reading, articulating this interaction with the teacher. She's freaking facing a wall to help her from being distracted. This starts in kindergarten with Black girls, and people want to know why Black kids don't like school by 3rd and 4th and 5th grade.
Exactly. And why Black girls are angry.
Wow. Because back in the day, Lilada, if we acted up in school or teacher acted up in a school, mom would show up to the school. Now, mom didn't show up at the school because we acted up in school, because we didn't act up in school. Because remember remember the agreement we had with mom? That wherever you embarrass me is where I'm going to embarrass you.
Oh, yeah.
So if you show your ass in 3rd grade math, you're going to show up and beat your ass in 3rd grade. And we saw that happen. Remember Scott Foster? He got his ass whooped in high school because he was acting.
Oh, I saw it.
So back in the day, we knew.
I saw it.
If we don't start nan, they ain't going to be nan. That means if we don't start anything, there won't be anything. And so, but you got young moms who are either working multiple jobs, or they're stressed, and they don't know their child is sitting up against the wall, looking up at a wall divider, and it's probably one of the smartest kids in the classroom. That child should be in some talented and gifted program and tracked for something higher. And instead they're facing a wall because they get distracted. This is why you're talking about defending Black girlhood, because if we said that to a Black boy, we would say, yeah. Who says that about Black girls? Who says that that's taking the place of Black girls? Something else I heard you say, and I'm sure you're going to get into this into your podcast. Approximately, how many Black girls or women are currently missing and unaccounted for? I mean, these are folks who are connected to a disappearance. Roughly how many are in that status with law enforcement in this country today?
Yeah, so there's estimations between 65 and 75,000. And that are
65,000 would be maybe the 3rd largest, maybe 4th in all of Wisconsin. After Milwaukee, Madison, Racine, and Kenosha, 60,000 would be a major city in a state like Wisconsin. 65,000 Black women are lost or missing and unaccounted for. Why aren't they on milk
it's
cartons?
important.
Why don't we have commercials about this?
Exactly. And it's important to clarify that these are reported missing. So it doesn't account for any that have gone missing and no one has reported them missing. So we really don't know what the hard numbers are.
Wow, but it starts, the baseline is around 65 Thousand. I wanted you to state that
Mm-hmm.
because I want my listeners to ask themselves why. If there were 65 pom-pom leaders missing, 65,000 pom-pom leaders, cheerleaders, suburban white girls, white women, and we knew it, there would be all kinds of Amber Alerts and things about that. This is, I don't know what
Actually, if there was
shocks me
one.
if there's one. Well, we've seen that. We know that's
one.
the case. What was the comment your colleague made that something is a white woman's phenomenon? Is it folks who are missing?
Yeah. So in doing research on, in doing research on this, we found something that is called the missing white woman syndrome, and this is a term that is given credit to Gwen Ifill, who is no longer with us, a reporter. Who basically said that when a white woman is missing, the whole world stops, particularly a white middle-class woman. You know, all stops come out for her. I mean, and you can tell, like, currently, you know, there's a missing white girl and her brother that are currently missing. They don't know if they are deceased. They don't know if anything negative has happened to these kids, but they have already arrested the mother because she won't tell them where they are. I mean, this has been all over national news for months for two kids that are missing.
And we have 65,000 Black women and girls. Those are minors also. So that's a mixture.
That's a combined number.
That's staggering. As a dad of a young woman, that just breaks my heart that we don't know what's going on, what's going wrong, and it's not even talked about. Like, that is so staggering that people probably don't even believe that that's true, and it is absolutely true. Lilada, you also talk about the trauma of Black women going all the way back to slavery. I mean, the incessant rapes, and certainly by you and I and other family members going to West Africa, going to Cape Coast, standing in one of the largest slave ports in West Africa. So we're standing in Cape Coast, where these African women were not just enslaved, but brutalized, raped, and all of these things. And it makes you think about the epigenetic trauma. That is the trauma that's passed genetically, cellularly, from one generation to the next. And so what does it feel like to have bookended experience by standing in that slave holding pen, that port, and now you're dealing with the great, 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 great granddaughters of those powerful and beautiful women for whom rape and abuse, mainly at the hands of whites, but eventually by others. What does that feel like to know that you're helping to bring some healing to what has been epigenetic and in place for 400 years for Black women?
Actually, I had two feelings in that space.
Sure. And
the one would be what you would imagine I would have, like literally standing in the dungeons where they kept the Black women, and knowing and seeing from where the white men would come,
the overseers,
and pick them. Would come and pick them and rape them, and just standing in that space, knowing that for so many Black women that I know, that was where their generational trauma began.
Right.
When you're talking about sexual. But the other part of it for me, and I've been really working on unpacking this, and I'm writing a poem about it, it was also being in that space and feeling the white man in me and feeling my genetic connection to the white man and feeling the indifference and the hatred inside of me that was so clear and thick in that space.
What do you mean inside of you?
Well, we know that almost every Black person in the Americas has descendancy from some white man somewhere, and it's not white people like we know white people that we are descended from. We are descended from white people that hated Black people. We are descended from white people that enslaved and beat and raped Black people.
And murdered.
That's the white that we have inside, and murdered. That's the white we have in us. And I think sometimes it still creates an inner war within ourselves. And I have been trying to unpack this. Like, even when we talk about self-hatred that Black people have, I don't think it's actually self-hatred. I think it is the DNA of the white man who hated us that is still inside of us and wars with the Black inside of us. And I don't think it's that we hate ourselves as Black people. I think the white man inside of us hates us.
Wow, that's deep.
It is deep.
You need to make sure that that's on your podcast. You need to make sure that when that poem is ready, it's on your podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I want to give people a sense of. I want to play this clip. I think it's just a couple of minutes to give people a taste of what you're talking about. This is your introductory piece. It's the introduction to the whole podcast, and you're just talking about why it's important to talk about these things. And we're not taught these things in school. We don't talk about them at church. Black girlfriends don't sit around sipping martinis talking about this. But yet you're talking about something that's causing the symptoms in our schools, and you're trying to help people to understand that the issues that Black girls are facing is not genetic; it's more epigenetic. That it's not just Black girls are inferior and can't do school, but there's some warring that's going on, and you're helping to bring light to that and healing space for them to move into it. And here you're talking, ranting, if you will, just a little bit. So, engineer, can you just cue us up a bit for this next piece?
If we don't heal, we will never be in the position to defend our girls, because defend them from what? Defend them from the same shit we went through? What did we go through? If we don't acknowledge our scars, if we don't acknowledge our pain, if we don't acknowledge the garbage and the baggage that we carry with us, we will ignore it in our daughters. You know, there's a story that I often tell of a Black girl who had an experience in school, and the mother was called after this experience because the girl had acted so much out of character that the social worker just kind of leaned in and said, "Baby, what's going on?" And the girl revealed that she had been sexually abused. So the social worker calls up the mom. Maybe she thought she was informing her of something she didn't know. And the mom says, "Yeah, I know." She said, "But I couldn't deal with mine. I can't help her deal with hers." And, you know, when you hear that, part of you wants to be like, oh, my God, that's a horrible thing for a mother to say. But that's the reality of too many Black women. The thought of pausing, stopping, acknowledging, feeling our pain, feeling our wounds, and then dealing with them is overwhelming. We don't know where to start because we don't know where our pain stopped and we began. And we've learned from our mothers and our mothers before is that you just suck it up. And it's this not just the historical trauma that we have that we're dealing with within ourselves, within our body, within our DNA. It's also the historical response to what we've been through. You know, when little girls were raped on the plantation, when little girls were raped in the birth of these Christian white captains that were stealing them away from Africa, there was no amount of cry out that they could do, that anybody could respond to, so that even if you heard her cry while she was being raped, even if you saw her tears after she got back, there was nothing you could do. There was no response that you could have. So Black men and Black women seeing their girls raped, there was nothing they could do on the plantation. Seeing her raped, seeing the master or the overseer calling her into the bushes or calling her into the big house, or taking her back to her own broken down cabin to rape her, there was nothing that anyone had the power to do anything about it. And so that's trauma too. The trauma of silence, the trauma of forgetting, the trauma of ignoring pain, the trauma of non-response to pain, to the pain of feeling of your own violations, and then seeing those same violations carried on in your daughter or your play daughters or your play nieces on the plantation. There was nothing you can do. And so you fast forward that now we're stuck with this pain that we're carrying, but we're also stuck with the modeling of you don't respond to the pain of Black girls. You don't respond to the pain of Black women. And you don't even as a Black girl or a Black woman respond to your own pain.
Wow. I mean, did you all hear that? That intro, that monologue related was prolific. You talked about the silence, that it wasn't even that others were disempowered from responding when they heard these young girls being raped, but they learned to not respond to their own pain. It sounds like in your work you're calling for a two-generation approach, that you're working with young girls so they become healthier Black women, but you're also working with Black women so that they can reach back and help you touch young girls too. So you're not trying to do this as a solo act. You're working with adult women because you believe that as they're healed, they can reach back and help their daughters heal. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. And that episode is called Ground Zero because
the one we just heard.
The one we just heard, because it tells the truth of where this all began, where the harm began, where the destruction began. And I'm absolutely convinced through my decades of work that if Black women do not heal, they will not defend Black girlhood. They just won't do it.
Wow.
Hey everybody, this is Tyler, the podcast manager of Black Like Me. Just wanted to jump on and share two quick things about Black Like Me. Number one, Patreon. Patreon is an opportunity for you, if you like our show at all, if you enjoy it, if you want us to keep creating this content, to be able to support us financially and to help us do that. If you're as little as $2 a month, you can join our team. We also have some other higher tiers with some more benefits if you join. So please go to patreon.com/blacklikeme to hear more. Number two is that if you are interested in having Dr. Gee speak, if you're interested in him doing some consulting for you, your organization, anything like that, you can go to alexgee.com/contact and you can fill out a form to be able to see how you might be able to bring Dr. Gee to your business or your community. All right, back to the show.
You've got an exciting, expose is not the right word, but you've been doing some research in a special area, special case. And I don't know if you want to say that now, so you can just sort of wave me off and not talk about it. But if you'd like to talk about that, I am so intrigued about this. And I'm just giving people a heads up that if you don't want to subscribe to the latest podcast for any other reason, you need to do so for this series that's about to drop, because anyone who's a white teacher, social worker, physician, nurse, etc., you've got to understand the things that are happening to Black girls, or not happening for Black girls. Tell us a little bit about this. Is it right to call it a series, or tell me about it?
Yeah, so we're calling it an audio documentary and kind of treating it like that. And so we are spotlighting the story, because again, when you hear 65, 70,000 missing Black women and girls, that's a very overwhelming number.
Right.
And it's easy to turn away because you just don't know what to do. And so we're looking at that number and we're whittling it down to the story of one Black girl that was missing from our community for essentially 12 years.
Oh my God.
And we're talking about her life. When I first started researching, doing this show about her, I thought it was going to be like maybe 1 or 2 episodes. But as I started exploring her story, the depth of, oh my God, missteps, negligence. So many people from so many.
So Lilada, so you're telling the story about Erica Hill, and you said there are so many missteps and acts of professional negligence. Like, explain to the people like what you're talking about. You mean family members, or are you talking about professionals in schools and inside the system?
I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about school support staff. I'm talking about doctors. I'm talking about church people. I'm talking about neighbors. I'm talking about social workers from the county. I'm talking about there were so many missteps that one of these entities doing just a little bit different could have saved this girl's life. And so initially I was going to be just looking at, because she was killed by her mother, and I was going to be looking mostly at that. As I start just uncovering story after story, I decided to call this "Who Killed Erica Hill?" because it's complicated.
It's complicated.
It's complicated to answer that question.
Wow. So you're saying it's not just one particular murderer, but because the system, the community failed by not looking closely, by ignoring the pain of this Black girl,
Yes.
you said who killed her, because you want the finger needs to be pointed more broadly than just her murder, than her mother who murdered her.
Absolutely. And I don't so much want to draw the conclusions for the listener, but I definitely want the listener to follow along.
So you're calling it "Who Killed Erica Hill" because there are more than one culprits. Not that there were multiple people standing around her as she took her last breath, but there were multiple people standing around as she was reaching out for help. People not reading the signs and not doing their jobs. Is that what you mean?
Yes. And reading the signs and not doing their jobs.
Wow.
And seeing the signs and not doing their jobs. And I really don't want to draw a conclusion so much for the listener as I want the listener to listen along as we're having a variety of conversations from people that were very key in the life of Erica, her mother, and have them question along with me, who killed Erica Hill?
That's powerful. That's really powerful and provocative. So it's a podcast, but that sounds like, I like that you call it an audio documentary, that you're really looking at this to give a snapshot, to help create within people's minds that Erica is somewhat of a microcosm. Her situation is somewhat of a microcosm of what's happening to Black girls and Black women in the United States and in the world.
Absolutely. Right. Because if you pick out one number, one girl, and if Erica she's just one girl, if her story is this complex, I dare say that many of those 65,000 have a very deep, complex story and reason behind why they're missing. And I think I want us to begin to question in our own communities, who's gone missing, why, what can we do about that? Instead of thinking, what can we do about the 5,000? Probably not much, but you can do something about the one. You can do something about the one. And so we thought that the story was so compelling that we decided to dedicate our whole first season to the telling of her story.
Wow. So all season 1 is going to be the unfolding of this story.
Yes.
Wow. And you're talking to real people. I mean, we don't want to give you everything away, but it's not just you talking about it. You're talking to real players.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. We know that this is going to stir up emotions inside Black girls and Black women. They're going to appreciate that you are giving voice to the story and the pain. What do you want white women, particularly who are social workers, or white people who are social workers, counselors, judges, what do you want them to learn from season 1? What's your message to them?
Because I think it's important very specifically to say white women, and I say white women because when you look at social services, you look at the educational system, it's white women who are the principals, they're the teachers, they're the social workers. And so
nonprofit leaders.
So the fate of really hangs in the balance on decisions that white women make or don't make.
Very insightful.
And so I want white women in these settings to be uncomfortable with how they are doing their work.
So you've mentioned that many of the principals are white women, that the fate of the future of Black girls hangs within the care and the power of white women because they're heading schools or in the classrooms. Many of them are the social workers and the nonprofit heads of organizations. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to know?
I need white women to get uncomfortable because they have historically been in many of these positions in the last 20 to 30 years. And I think it is crucial that as we look even in our own community about the racial divide between Black children and white children in the Madison-Dane County area, that there is some culpability in decisions and policies that impact our children. And what you're doing isn't working. And I think we have to see that it's not just broken people that we're dealing with. We're really dealing with broken systems and broken policies.
Yes. And what we're finding is, well-intentioned or not, people who are paid, social workers, teachers, attorneys, to care for all children, but they're also, or elected to care for our Black children, Black girls, are often dropping the ball.
They're often dropping the ball. And, you know, my new favorite thing is to put fuck in front of things that get on my nerves. So, you know, like fuck intentions. And I know that's going to insult people. They're going to be more concerned about the fact that I said fuck than the fact that all these well-intentioned people keep leading to Black girls being removed from their homes, Black girls being kicked out of school, Black girls going to foster care, Black girls being missing, Black girls being abused, you know.
Black girls going to prison.
The intention, I don't care what your intention is. If your actions, if your policies, if they lead to the destruction of Black girls, I don't give a fuck of what your intention is.
Wow.
I need you to look at what you're doing, and I need you to change it in order to defend Black girls.
Yes, because doctors, physicians, surgeons don't carry malpractice insurance because they intended to cut the jugular vein.
Right.
That insurance covers them when they are negligent, not intentionally. When they are negligent, most of the time it is accidental or somehow they are impaired and should not be in that position. So you're right. This is not about intention. Let's look at the results, accept some culpability.
Yes.
So you want white women to listen. You want white women to share this podcast,
Yes.
Not only this episode, but membership to your podcast, subscription to it, to white women they know who consider themselves woke or in an awakening posture, who are in these key positions, teachers, social workers, attorneys, case managers. You want them to listen, to lean in, and to honestly take a look at what's going on.
Oh yeah, I need every principal to listen to this. I need every social worker to listen to this. I need doctors to listen to this, because part of this story shows some missteps by the medical professions. You know, so I need them to listen to it. And I find in my own personal and professional interaction with white women in these key positions is that they hide behind their intentions. And if you are so bent on telling me what your intention was, you don't get to feel the pain and the impact of your actual actions, because you don't want to know. You want me to know what you intended. I need you to know what you did.
Wow. I mean, that's just straightforward. That is straightforward. Do you feel a sense of accomplishment that you're ready to drop season 1? Because that is major. How good does that feel?
You know, it's both and. You know, I feel a sense of connection to Erica Hill, and our paths did cross. And I feel a sense of connection, and I feel a sense of responsibility to her in telling her story. So, you know, I've cried, I prayed over this so many times because I want to honor her. I want to do justice to her story that really got lost in this whole process. And so part of me feels like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready yet. And then the other part of me feels like, you know, ready or not, here I come. This is a great time, I think, while teachers are not in the classrooms, principals are not in their offices, social workers are not out in the community, that this is a great time to release this for people to have the time to listen to it and let it soak in. And I even encourage people to, take out a pen and pad as you're listening, to write down questions and to submit questions to us after listening to this person or that person.
Great idea.
What are the questions that you have?
Wow. So listen, Lilada, this is so exciting. I want you to know that that I'm proud of you, not just because you're my sister. Even if you weren't, I'd be proud. But
Thank
you
you.
never cease to amaze me at how you take your own pain, your own experiences, and you convert it into something beautiful. Real quickly, because you do so many other things, folks don't know you're this budding artist. Like I remember as a kid, you used to sort of, doodle, but like your stuff is selling all over this country. And so we're going to put some links in here too, because the proceeds of your art supports your work in defending Black girlhood. To what extent are Black girls inspiring your art?
Oh, they are so deeply inspiring my art, trying to capture their joy, because when I first started conceptualizing defending Black girl, I thought about like having a face of a sad Black girl, but no, that's not what we're trying to do. So drawing pictures that really show the joy and that shows the innocence of Black girls, showing them just as girls, is really one of the things that I work to capture in my art, as well as just showing them images of themselves and other Black women as beautiful, giving them that as a gift.
You've talked to me about young girls like standing at your table and covering their mouths, like their jaws drop because they're not used to seeing refrigerator magnets, coloring sheets, mugs, posters with themselves on it. What a gift to Black girls. That's why you like Christy, because she looked like you. And once again, you've taken your experiences that were helpful and you're converting into something that young Black girls can relate to. I just think that that's a beautiful thing. We're going to put links to all of this, but is there a Facebook page that people can go to see your art? Is there an Instagram page? And again, there'll be links to it. Where can people go just to see your art?
Yes, if people would like to just see it, they can go to Lilada's Art, at Lilada's Art on Instagram.
At Lilada's Art on Instagram. We'll have all those links in here. And then you also have links if people want to purchase mugs and artwork, they can also do that?
Absolutely. So I have two stores, one on Society 6, and then I have one on Redbubble. And the one on Redbubble is called Black Girl Joy, and it's images and items just specifically for Black girls, stickers and notebooks and socks and everything.
Wow. And I want to say this because I know my listeners, and this is some of what you're learning. Do I have to be Black to buy it? No. We've been buying white coloring books, white comic books. Archie wasn't Black. Casper wasn't Black. Richie Rich wasn't Black. Y'all been selling us everything from white Jesuses to white Mattel. So you can buy these items, and not just for African American girls you know and love. Please, please, please do so.
Right.
But, if you live in a community or places where your child does not have diverse relationships, let her have a drawing, a painting in her room that normalizes Black beauty.
Absolutely.
That will do enough for the next generation. And what I love about it, Lilada, is that you set it up so that this supports your work. Because of this, it allows you to be able to do some of the work in the Caribbean, in Central America. This helps to fuel the work that you're doing there, because you're not supported by governmental agencies. You're not supported by school districts. You're not supported by human services departments. You raise money in order to heal our Black girls, and the residual effect is a stronger community and a stronger America, because Black women have taken care of everybody, including the people that have built this country and have actually been nannies, maids, wet nurses, and side pieces to the white men who have built this country. It's about time we recognize her strength and her beauty. And we're going to put all the links there, because we don't want you just to observe it, because observing just makes you, this is not an art exhibit. Take a step in order and buy this so that you can support that Lilada's doing. Lilada, I am really, really excited about all the things that you are doing. I'm really proud. You and I have a Facebook Live gig that's going to be coming out soon, because we want to give people a place to go and laugh. So people will be able to watch us sort of interact and talk about some funny stuff on here. I didn't want to get into silliness today, because I didn't want to distract you from the seriousness of your work. But man, God bless you on your work for your
Thank you.
care for Black girls. What a noble impact. I watched. You would never say this about yourself, but I recently watched Harriet. It's a movie about Harriet Tubman not only getting free, but going back on several campaigns to bring Black people out, and even led an army troop, brigade team, whatever. She led it in battle, and it makes me think of your work. So many people get free
thank you.
and they don't reach back. You've gotten free and you've not stopped bringing Black girls with you. And let me say this just to my white listeners, a special, this is what's really special. The invitation from Lilada for you to lean in and listen is her attempt to bring you out of bondage as well. And so if you, in preparing for Lilada's podcast, I know many of you are going to go and download it, and you should. In preparing for her podcast, I want to challenge you to do some work. I want you to go back through my archives, and I want you to listen to my interview with Dr. Robin DiAngelo, where she talks about white frailty, particularly the discussion that we had around white women and tears. And I'm not trying to be facetious. We keep it real here on Black Like Me, and that's why you come. Prepare yourself and listen, because Black people don't help white people by saying, we know you meant well. Our children are dying. Our babies have infant mortality rates that rivals those of countries that are at war, third world countries at war. We cannot continue to do business as usual. So go and find, just search on my site, on my podcast, to find the one by Robin DiAngelo. We'll put a link, engineer, put a link in there too, please. Do that. And then listen to Lilada's podcast, subscribe, lean in, because this is going to be some of the best introduction to enhanced race relations that you're going to get. And then what I also want you to know is that she is a trainer of trainers. She does workshops and seminars. She's trained everything from sexual assault nurses to social workers. So once you listen, you're going to want to bring her to your organizations, to your trainings, to your conferences, because we all need to work on behalf of our young Black girls. And I'm pleading with you, not as Lilada's brother, but as a father of a Black woman. We need to do better. So Lilada, keep up the great work. Congratulations on your new podcast. This is fantastic. I'm proud to be able to promote it, and I just wish you every success.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Sure. This has been another exciting episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee. And listen, we've given you a lot to listen to and to lean into. So listen, lean in, learn, be transformed by what you're hearing, become a part of the change that you want to see and that we need to have in this community. This is not about entertainment. This is about change. And we need all of us to work together for the most vulnerable and disenfranchised among us. This has been another great episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee. You have a great day, and please be safe.
Ooh, Black Like Me, yeah.
I want to thank Corey Saffold for creating the music for this podcast, my podcast manager, Tyler Nyland, engineer and editor, Eli Steenlich, my editor, Jeremy Holiday, and a special thank you to WORT Studios, where we record Black Like Me.
Ooh, Black Like Me.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex Gee's amazing work at www.alexgee.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.